They don't need to be in institutions. So we insisted that the state dismantle this institutional system. That was like priority one.
You can't treat no two kids the same because each of them have their own personality. Treat them as an individual. I can't treat them as a group because that's when you lose them.
One of the main focuses was to get children out of the government custody and into families, so that the adoption rate has really gone up quite substantially, as has the rate of children being returned to their parents.
One of the major holes in this system was just a complete lack of support of foster parents, and Pearlie Cash was no exception.
I am the caretaker, mother of 9 children. I know a good 80 children that come through my home. They call me the fat in house because when they left, they were fat, fluffy.
This was a woman with a very big heart who was willing to take in the children that had no other homes, many of whom came from the same drug-addicted mother.
When I first met Pearlie, she had 5 or 6 foster kids in her home, and one particular child, Danielle, who became a plaintiff in the lawsuit.
Her social worker brought her here when she was 3 days old. I never forget it. She was about that big. And she never showed back up again. This child was 6 years old. Nobody never asked me about that child. Danielle had bad asthma attacks, behavior problems in school and everything. You came through town with the lawsuit and everything. That's when she got a social worker. Along with, I was able to get the medical help that I needed for her, and also the assistant that I needed in school. I think it's a great thing to be a foster parent, but you gotta have a good backup behind you, especially when you're a single person.
In order to produce better results for kids, to give them a chance for a better life, there needs to be a system at work that will ensure that those results take place. So no system can protect children if it has high caseloads and lack of training and no way of figuring out what's actually happening to or tracking children, no good processes for making decisions for children. That was absent in Tennessee when we filed suit. It is now very much a part of the Tennessee system.
You couldn't do for 43 kids what you could do for 20. You didn't have time. So everything that you did was the bare minimum. When you have cases that were sky high like ours were, it's just too hard to manage it all.
We had no data tracking system. I had nowhere to go to look and see were my children being visited.
There would be handwritten notes, they'd be front and back, you couldn't find information.
Now we have data systems in place that allow us to measure absolutely everything. You almost can't think of something that we aren't measuring in Tennessee.
Medical, psychological appointments, medication, face-to-face visits, visits with the parents, visits with siblings, because sometimes the siblings were placed apart.
The reason that states, I think, resist these lawsuits is because they don't want to really be held accountable. They don't want to be measured on their results. And states know that when we bring a lawsuit and we win, we're going to be watching what they're doing and seeing whether they really produce results for kids. And we're not going to go away until they do.
They want the same thing for kids and families that I want. I don't want to kid you for a minute. They keep their foot in my back. This has not been easy, but would we have made the kind of progress that we've made at the speed that we've made it without children's rights and the pressure of having that consent decree? There's no way we would have, I don't think.
You think that it's over, that the case is over, but it's not over. It's every day you have to keep at it because there's this inertia that you think the state has, and they have an anti-inertia. They keep going backwards.
First of all, it's just the whole idea of federal courts telling state governments what to do. And I don't like that either. I've said that before. It doesn't feel good.
You fight them in the press, you fight them in the courts, you fight them in the legislature. You do not surrender. When they realize that it's cheaper and easier to deal with you across the table than to fight you in court, then you can get something done.
States do need to reform their public child welfare systems. No, but you can't argue that. When you look at adults, children who have aged out of the system and the outcomes that you get for those kids, how can you argue?
You don't want children's rights to come filing a lawsuit. You get these Yankees down here, they're going to change your whole system.
The good results in Tennessee can be replicated in other states if there's pressure in these states, in fact, to protect these children and do a better job. That takes resources, that takes staffing, that takes experts, that takes all of the work that we do, and that takes funding to be able to do it.
We need the resources to be able to do what we're doing in Tennessee in more places. There are just hundreds of thousands of kids in child welfare systems that need help, need someone to advocate for them. They do not vote. They are not a strong constituency. They don't have an all-powerful lobby that state officials listen to. There has to be a voice for them. Children's rights is that voice, and we've got to be able to keep doing that because no one else is standing up for these kids.
It's like when you have a big family, you can enjoy eating together and playing together, and we just have a great time. We love her. We want to show her that we need her, but like anything she tell you to do, you should do it because this the best mom I've seen before, and I love her very much.